A humiliating scene for Vladimir Putin's Navy. One of Russia's so-called stealth submarines was forced to surface right in the middle of NATO waters. Not stealthy. Western officials say a malfunction left it stranded and exposed in the English Channel. NATO released photos, mocked Moscow's Navy, and called it a symbol of Russian decline. I'll have the details. One of Russia's prized stealth submarines was forced to surface in the English Channel, right in the middle of NATO waters, after what Western officials are calling a major technical malfunction. The incident turned into a bit of a public spectacle, with NATO releasing photos of the sub on the surface and Western leaders openly mocking Moscow's supposed naval prowess. The submarine in question is believed to be the Novorossiysk, a diesel-electric attack sub from Russia's Black Sea Fleet. According to reports, it was transiting north through the English Channel when something went wrong, possibly a mechanical or fuel systems failure. Instead of slipping quietly beneath the waves, it suddenly appeared on the surface, exposed and vulnerable, as NATO ships shadowed it at a distance. The British and French navies quickly confirmed that they were monitoring the vessel's movements, while NATO's Maritime Command released clear images showing the sub cruising along under escort. Western officials say it was effectively, quote, limping home, unable to submerge safely. NATO Secretary General seized the moment to take a jab at Moscow, calling the submarine, quote, broken, and describing the episode as a symbol of Russia's declining military competence. In his words, quote, for a country that prides itself on secrecy and strength, it's quite a sight to see their stealth fleet in plain view, end quote. Another European official joked that the hunt for Red October had turned into the hunt for a mechanic. Those guys at NATO and the EU, they've got such a sense of humor. The response from Moscow has been predictably defensive. The Russian Ministry of Defense flatly denied that anything went wrong. No, we meant a surface, come on, saying the surfacing was a, quote, planned navigation maneuver conducted according to international maritime law. Russian state media echoed that line, insisting that the Novorossiysk was operating normally as it moved from one fleet zone to another. They accused NATO of, quote, inventing a malfunction to embarrass Russia and score a propaganda win. Still, the images tell their own story. Submarines like the Novorossiysk are built for stealth, not for spectacle. They travel submerged for a reason, obviously, to stay hidden, to avoid detection, and to project quiet deterrence. Once a sub is forced to surface, whether due to engine trouble or electrical failure, it's not just a technical issue, it's a strategic humiliation. For a Navy that prides itself on silence and stealth, being photographed in broad daylight by NATO warships is about as bad as it gets. Analysts point out that Russia's aging fleet is under growing strain. Sanctions have limited access to key replacement parts, and years of war spending have redirected resources away from maintenance and modernization. That's left portions of the fleet operating with patchwork repairs and dwindling spare inventories. A fuel leak or propulsion malfunction would fit that broader pattern of slow decay. At the same time, Western intelligence officials are treating the incident as an opportunity to gather data, tracking the sub's systems, acoustic signature, and surface behavior. Every minute that it stayed above water gave NATO's anti-submarine units more information about how Russia's undersea fleet really performs. For Putin, this episode is more than just a mechanical failure. It's a hit to the image that he's worked hard to maintain, a resurgent Russia with modern weapons and global reach. Instead, this looked like something closer to a Cold War relic struggling to stay afloat. It's a small event in the grand scheme of things and in the grand scheme of the war of influence, but it's exactly the kind of symbolic setback that Moscow just can't stand. And as one NATO official put it, with just a hint of satisfaction, they wanted to send a message to the West. Instead, they sent a distress signal. All right. Coming up next, President Trump meets with world leaders in Egypt for a regional peace summit. The latest from the Middle East when we come back. Hey, Mike Baker here. You know, the important things in life, good values, a strong foundation, a legacy. Well, those things don't happen by accident, or they don't happen overnight. They're built and they're reinforced day by day, and often around the family dinner table. And that's why I'm proud to work with and buy from Tri-Tails Premium Beef. They are a terrific company. Look, they're a fifth-generation ranching family out of Texas. There's no corporate middlemen. There's no suits. It's just a family of ranchers raising cattle and doing business the right way. And right now, they've got their autumn butcher block on offer. It's 2 chuck roasts for those slow-cooked family meals, 4 New York strips for the grill, ground beef for the weeknight staples, and they're throwing in stew meat for free. It's beef built for the season. And it's about more than food. It's about knowing where your food comes from, supporting family ranching, and feeding your family right. Check it out while it's still available at trybeef.com/PDB. Again, that's trybeef.com/PDB. Welcome back to the Afternoon Bulletin. Building on the breakthrough that brought 20 Israeli hostages home this morning, President Trump arrived in Jerusalem to deliver a rousing address to the Knesset, a speech lawmakers hailed as the start of a, quote, new Middle East. Standing before the Israeli parliament, Trump urged the Jewish state to turn the page from war to peace, a call that drew standing ovations from lawmakers who credited him with ending 2 years of bloodshed. Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana declared Trump, quote, the greatest friend Israel ever had in the White House, vowing to join U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson and other world leaders in nominating the president for the Nobel Peace Prize next year. As we discussed on today's PDB, Hamas released all living hostages held since the October 7th, 2023 terror attacks. And that's a defining milestone, of course, in the first phase of the White House's 20-point peace plan to end all hostilities in Gaza. In his remarks, President Trump paid tribute to those still returning, saying, quote, 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time, end quote. He continued, after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, end quote. But even amid the celebration, challenges remain. Israeli media reports that only 4 of the 28 bodies held in Gaza are expected to be returned today, and that's a development that could test the early stability of the ceasefire and complicate the start of Phase 2 of the peace plan, which calls for Hamas's disarmament and a further IDF withdrawal from the Strip. But Trump pushed on in his speech, declaring, quote, this is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death, the beginning of an age of faith, hope, and of God. In a lighter moment, Trump turned to Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog and said, quote, hey, I have an idea, Mr. President. Why don't you give him a pardon, referring to Prime Minister Netanyahu, having him join in on the credit for securing the hostage releases. The remark drew applause from the chamber. And for those of you unfamiliar, Netanyahu was indicted back in 2019 on charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. He's long denied those accusations. Trump's address briefly turned tense when 2 Israeli lawmakers were forcibly escorted out of the Knesset after protesting the American president's peace plan, holding signs that read, quote, recognize Palestine. That's a reminder of the deep divisions still plaguing Israel's political landscape. Reaffirming America's bond with the Jewish state, Trump told the Israeli parliament, quote, please know that America joined you in those 2 everlasting vows, never forget and never again. On the sidelines, Trump and Netanyahu met with the families of the freed hostages. The Red Cross said several were in serious condition after years in Hamas's captivity. As we mentioned, the Israeli Air Force airlifted all living hostages to hospitals for long-term medical and psychological care. Hours later, Trump touched down in Egypt for the next act in his peace push, a regional summit in Sharm el-Sheikh aimed at solidifying the ceasefire and charting Gaza's post-war future. The headline attendees of more than 20 world leaders included French President Emmanuel Macron, Turkish President Erdogan, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. But I'd like to point out that those notably absent were representatives from Israel and Hamas. Iranian state media also confirmed that neither President Masoud Pezeshkian nor Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi would attend. Araghchi posted on X, quote, neither President Pezeshkian nor I can engage with counterparts who have attacked the Iranian people and continue to threaten and sanction us. Of course, he's referencing Israel and the U.S.'s joint effort in the 12-day war in June. Now, given that Hamas is in part a creation of the Iranian regime and their objective remains the destruction of Israel, their absence at a peace summit isn't really a big loss. And so the summit's agenda centers on the next phase of Trump's peace plan, removing Hamas from Gaza's political structure, establishing transitional governance, and launching reconstruction. Attending leaders are expected to pledge funding, though the plan's implementation remains uncertain. Still, President Trump's address and the peace that the summit leaders hope will take root across the region do mark a defining moment in his presidency. What began as a ceasefire and hostage release is now moving into a second phase, one where participants talk of reshaping the Middle East under a vision of peace and stability. And that, my friends, is the PDB Afternoon Bulletin for Monday, the 13th of October. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And, of course, if you want to listen to the show ad-free, you can certainly do that. And it's very simple. Just become a premium member of the President's Daily Brief by visiting pdbpremium.com. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, Mike Baker here with a great offer from our friends over at Birch Gold Group. Look, you could buy gold and now get some free silver, right? What do you think about that? Look, for every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they'll send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden flag and American flag. Here's the deal. Gold is up over 40%, right, since the beginning of this year, hitting record highs. And Birch Gold can help you diversify into gold by converting an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they'll send you free silver honoring our veterans on qualifying purchases. And if you're current or former military, Birch Gold has a special offer just for you. They're waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, many of whom are PDB listeners, might I add, I encourage you to talk with Birch Gold about diversifying your savings into gold. Text PDB to the number 989-898 for a free information kit and to claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchase before the end of the month. Again, simple. Just text PDB to 989-898. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.